Dr. Benjamin had called me and
Okay, great.
given me information, and I didn't see your email until, was it Sunday or something like that? And then I said,
Okay.
"Oh, that was mighty nice of you." So I replied back to you.
You're
Thank,
very
thank
welcome.
you,
You're
thank you, my
welcome.
sister. Thank you.
God
No me
bless
están
you.
mirando,
God
¿verdad?
bless you, my
No.
sister. Thank you so
Okay.
much. Thank you.
Yeah,
Hello,
yo
Sister
también.
Gloria. How are you?
Fine. How are you?
I'm well, thank you.
Good.
¿Ah?
Yeah.
Okay. Mira, yo lo puse ahí.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Bye.
Alrighty, good evening, everyone.
Hey, Doc, how are you today?
I am pretty good. Let me try to share a screen with you.
Dr. Benjamin, Daniel says his wife logged him in, but he's running late. He'll be about 15 minutes late.
Got you.
All right.
Alrighty. Let me stop sharing there. Share screen. Let me see if you could. Oops. Is it this file? I believe it's this file. Alrighty. All right, let's have a word of prayer. Father in heaven, thank you for this time that we have to continue with our studies as we think about ways to address concerns and to develop a research process to help us get a better understanding of what's going on and how we can develop our practice within our local congregations or with the community. We pray that you will bless us as we think about action research, as we think about qualitative research. We pray that you will help us as we build our proposal and to do it in such a way that we can address a specific need. Bless us as we go through this sample proposal and as we develop our own. We ask in Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
As you know, last week we were trying to go through step by step, watching what this student did and what would be our approach for our own setting, and noticing where perhaps this could be strengthened, and therefore the kind of things that we might put in our own. And we ask you to try to get yours up to speed all the way down to perhaps the consent form. So together, as we walk through this, you will have your first draft. I believe we said the first draft would be September 23rd, and then I will return it with some feedback by the 30th for the final draft on October 5. And while you're doing that, of course, you have the reading reports coming along. Before we go through this, how are you feeling about the reading report, what you're reading from John Swinton's book, Practical Theology and Qualitative Research? Are you getting a sense of his distinction between qualitative and quantitative? Quantitative, as you can see, is quantity is dealing with numbers and figures. Qualitative, and this is just a brief overview in a sense, qualitative is more or less dealing with subjective types of questioning, getting the response of people in terms of their feelings, and they're not just checking a box. And so you can add up how many people said yes or no, and you will get various quantities that you can just put on a graph and then develop some strategy for analyzing the various responses. In qualitative, you're looking at people's feelings, people's attitudes based on a conversation with them. And you do have also what we call mixed methods, where you have both qualitative and quantitative happening. Action research in relation to pastoral practice, which is the second book you're reading, is really a qualitative approach to getting at a particular problem or a particular concern that is going on. One general kind of way is just to have a lot of ideas about what you think is going on, about what the church is supposed to be doing. We've had lots of experiences in being in the church, being in the Sabbath school, and we can just say lots of things about our pastor, and we can say lots of things as to what we think might be the most relevant based on, a quotation from Ellen White and so forth. Qualitative takes seriously the feelings and ideas of actual people. And because you're dealing with their feelings and ideas and you want their honest response, this training, the ethics training, is important because the IRB would need to see what kind of questions you might be asking them and whether or not that might conjure up destructive feelings. And so just like we would say for the medical field, do no harm, for the researchers, do no harm. And if I really loved the last pastor, if he was there for me when the doctor said, we don't think he has a long time to live, but he came in and miraculously and spiritually, the doctors were aghast. Well, not aghast, but they were just dumbfounded. They don't understand how is it that this X-ray is showing this, but my pastor was there, and my pastor was there to dedicate my children. Now my children have gone on to college, and he was there for all of that. He baptized them. And so my pastor is very close to my heart. And then like Enoch, he was no more. He just came in and he read a letter out saying that the conference met last week and they believe that the Lord is leading me into another place, and they've given me a week to leave the church or to move to the next district. To me, that's like a divorce. That's like a horrible fracturing of, it's like a bereavement. And so when a questioner comes in and talks about the practice of the last pastor and how I would like to do things kind of different, it's more than just that. We are dealing with people, we are dealing with their feelings, and it's quite possible that people can become very upset, depending on how we address the concerns and the needs of people, why they no longer come to church, or There may be a whole lot of reasons. And so the consent form has to be given so that willing people of a particular age that we may be questioning or researching with, can see what is going to be, what's involved, and they know they can withdraw from this process, and they know that their information would be confidential, and that because we know that there could be feelings of anger and all other things, perhaps we'll have a counselor as part of the process as well. Quantitative, you just send out a survey. But it has to be done in a particular way as well, because the survey should not enable the researcher to be able to identify the person. So you don't ask for that postcode, or you don't ask, sometimes you can ask for the postcode because you want to see whether there's a difference between churches in Huntsville versus churches in Madison County, or Knoxville, or wherever. But that has to be done. The IRB may want to look at that to make sure that people cannot be identified. That is, isolated questionnaires cannot be identified. And so there is a particular pastoral process that is involved in qualitative research for pastoral practice. And I believe we should have some kind of graph in here that looks at the practice page 95, but there was another one that we would have covered that in Pastoral and Practical Theology, the pastoral cycle. So you are doing qualitative research, or you are proposing a qualitative research approach to the IRB in your proposal when you are requiring questions for a group conversation about a topic. And out of that conversation, you may have a show of hands, and you may have themes that you spend quite a bit of time on, or people got very excited about that. Or within that group itself, you can also have a very quick survey, so you can get some results in that way too. So it's a kind of mixed method there. But by and large, the pastoral, practical, theological research that we are dealing with is about practice, and it's about people's attitudes and practices within the church and community, and you are assessing that, and you are introducing an intervention, a way of practicing that intervention to see if it works. If it doesn't work, that's not an issue. The point is you are discovering something. And if it doesn't work, then you can still create workshop materials by showing what would be the weaknesses of one approach and what would be able to strengthen what one can do to strengthen or improve a particular method of soul winning or of youth involvement or youth attendance at church, or you know. So qualitative is the approach, and on the other texts that we are using, action research, I believe, and I'm actually looking at my Kindle version here, so there is no page number, but 1 hour, 35 minutes into the book, 21% of the text defines action research, and defines it as action research is an approach to research that rather than a particular set of methods.
Excuse me, Dr. Benjamin.
Mm-hmm.
Before we leave quality research book, could you tell me once again, if you have that right before you, what are the chapters that we're supposed to have the book report on?
Well, the chapters that we gave you is chapters 1 to 3, and 4 and 9. So reading report is chapters 1 to 3. That's reading report 1. Reading report 2, 4 to 9. And then the second book, 1 to 3 and 4 and 5.
Okay. But just for this one is chapters 1 through 3 and 4 and 9, just for qualitative research book.
Yes, so that's
Okay.
two separate reading reports.
Okay.
I'm kind of confused here because I thought you gave us practical theology and the canon book, talking about God in practice. Those were the books you told us to do?
Yes.
Reports on?
Yes.
Are you adding another one?
No.
Is Gloria asking about this?
I'm just asking specifically about qualitative research papers, that book by Master. I'm only asking about that particular book right now.
Oh, I see what you mean. We're not doing a reading report on that book.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
There is a sheet that you would indicate that you have an understanding of what is being asked for,
Okay.
what you're supposed to do,
Mm-hmm.
and you're supposed to simply check it off and put it in the Dropbox at the end of the semester. I think we said.
Okay.
Right. So we're not reading through as an assignment
For Master at all.
Vimester or Turabian. In other words, you don't have to submit a reading report for Turabian or Vimester, but
Okay.
you have a sheet
Mm-hmm.
with various sections of those books
Okay.
that's listed out with some various topics, and then on the
Okay.
right-hand side you would simply give a brief summary of what that chapter is about.
Okay.
It's like a sentence or so,
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Hey, Doc.
right? That's different from the two books that we're talking about
Okay.
in terms of practical theology and qualitative research, and the one in action research.
Okay.
Hey, Dr. Benjamin.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, now, I'm sorry, please forgive me, but you're saying practical theology and qualitative research. That's from chapters 1 to 3. That's due on the 30th, am I correct?
Yes.
Okay. Now, what's
4 9.
4 to 9 for the same book?
Yes.
That's due in
On the October 12th.
Okay, October 12th. And talking about God in practice, that's chapters
1 and 3.
Uh-huh.
October 26th.
Okay.
And chapters 4 and 5, November 16th.
Okay, thank you, Doc.
All right.
Thank you.
So this second book on action research is defined not as a set of methods, such as qualitative and quantitative, but it's defined, it says here, it's an approach to research as opposed to a set of research. It has developed in different ways as the next section will describe. That is the next section of the book here. Any single definition runs the risk of oversimplification, but conversation has to start somewhere. And so here is a list of characteristics of action research derived from both Greenwood and Levy, 2007, and Burns, 2007. Here are some characteristics of action research. Okay, remember now, mere theoretical research means that you can sit in the library or sit at home, search the Oakwood Library for papers, scholarly papers, and assess and analyze all of those papers in regards to a particular topic. Nothing wrong with that. That's just another scholarly activity. It's a theoretical research. And you more or less can do that with quantitative research as well. You can stay at home, you can send out a survey, and many of us have received surveys from various organizations, and we can fill in the blanks and send it back. That's it. And someone stays in their office or somewhere and analyze the data, and then they make decisions from that data. Action research and qualitative research requires more personal engagement. And so as we think of practical theology, we are thinking about more engagement with the needs of the people, more engagement with the practices of congregations, their needs, their concerns. And yes, the pastors and the conferences might all be involved in some way, hence the need to be careful with this. It becomes human subject research in a direct sense, and quantitative research is also human subject research, but it may receive an exemption or expedited research depending on the kind of questions, depending on the kind of risks, and depending on the kind of whether there are any financial commitments and so forth. Now, what are some of the characteristics? Action research for practical theology, just like qualitative research for practical theology, they are contextual. They have a context. And this is on 25% if you have a Kindle version, 21%. It's context-based. It's not abstract. It's dealing with a specific space, a specific group of people. Okay. You are trying to improve or minister to a particular set of individuals, not a subject in the sense of an idea or a group of people as a theoretical subject. So Nancy, it's not an abstract group of theoretical chaplains. I don't know who they are. I'm just writing about chaplains. Action research, and qualitative research is contextual. So it has to be grounded. So it has to be the Oakwood University Church in the South Central Conference. And any variation of that, because of confidentiality, we have to work that out and see how far back we can go without being identified or identifying individuals. And so it's context driven. It's not an idea. It's not just a topic I'm writing about. It addresses real life problems or real congregational problems. So as far as possible, we're not simply writing about narrative preaching versus topical preaching in the abstract. We will have to talk about my preaching. That there's something that's going on in the worship setting and in the results of how it impacts people when I preach topical sermons. Perhaps my topical sermons are long, and I want to improve them. And I've been doing some reading and so on, and the idea that narrative sermons might be a better way of preaching the doctrines. So I would do a bit of I would do a survey, a questionnaire about my preaching with my congregation. I would probably, give up the question, probably with 2 or 3 individuals, and make one of them responsible for sharing that questionnaire with the congregation or with a select group of individuals, maybe 10 people. And I will let the congregation know what I'm trying to do. I'll make an announcement. I'll put something on a notice board. We will have this initial response, and then I'll say to them, over the next month, we will be preaching narrative sermons, and the group will be assessing certain responses and so forth. And then perhaps with the group, we will review what I did and what I intended to do. And at the end of the sermons, perhaps they may meet the congregation outside with their cell phone, and they will be, or with the camera, and they'll be asking me, how do you enjoy the sermon today? Dr. Benson was trying to do this, that, or the other. Do you think he achieved them in his sermon? Was this sermon longer than usual? How do you feel? You ask them several questions in relation to what the objective of the piece of research I'm doing and what I'm trying to find out.
Excuse me, Dr. Benjamin. Could you use me for an example for a minute?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, my research project is Transition House. Who do you think I should survey? Should I survey the church members? Who should I survey? I'm not sure how I should go about doing that.
It's a good question. It's really whether or not you are saying, the hypothesis is going to guide us there.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to share your hypothesis? Because you would have gotten beyond that now, right?
Yeah, sort of. And I guess I didn't really, to be honest, I don't think I really have one. I mean, this is a project that, well, I want to do. I know that it's needed. I know that. So I guess my
Remember last week we were saying that we want you to work through, we went through the sample document, and we are saying that you need to move beyond all of these topics, or you should have completed your version of this. So really, this yellow section, this section here in bold, is his hypothesis, and that we needed to write up our own as we are working through our draft. So what would in your abstract, in your first paragraph, do you have a hypothesis of what you're trying to achieve, or what do you?
I think I do. My thought is to, I can't bring it up right now to read it, but I'm trying to remember. And I know my thought is to evangelize people that are homeless, that are going through a crisis period right now, and to have a transition house.
Right.
Evangelize them. And
so, okay, let's work with that a little bit.
okay.
So what you currently have is a statement, not a hypothesis.
Okay.
It's a wish. It's something that you would like to do. You now need to turn it into a workable statement that proposes something. That in this project, excuse me, or this proposal affirms that or you can even say, just like he based it on an initial piece of research, the dynamics of church leadership, you can say, according to the report from the Mississippi Times, transitional houses have proven to be a good way of helping individuals who have become bankrupt due to healthcare bills to make it back into I don't want to say back into society, but has been a way of helping them to get back on their feet again. You know, page 25, report 2015. This proposal seeks to show, seeks to explore the value of a, what did you call it? Transitional house?
Yes.
Transitional house home for the Seventh-day Adventist Church in the South Central Conference.
Okay.
Or a transitional home supported by two congregations. She's very specific now. In the South Central Conference. So that's an exploratory hypothesis that, based on the idea that you have heard, or you've read, or a report that came out that says it's a good thing, this proposal seeks to explore the possibility.
Okay.
Right? Or this proposal will seek to show. It all depends on what you want to do. Not knowing not knowing whether it'll work, you are exploring. Yeah, you talk. You have these conversations with two churches. You talk to the conference. You look at the community services documents and all kinds of things, and you look at the financial base. What does it take to do this? and you would have these meetings in regards to how it will work,
Okay.
and you get the buy-in, and you can see the potential of it. Now, you may never be able to work it because it may take a lot of money and the leasing of a property or whatever, or it may be that people who have passed on and have left properties for the conference, that would be a way of deeding properties for that particular service. So now people put property in their will for the church. I'm just saying, you know, and so that becomes a method, and that becomes something that eventually that could be a kind of training resource. It gets to the conference level, conference votes it, or something like it, and the whole exercise, the whole exploration worked. In that it provided an opportunity to get the facts and to have a working model pretty close to, you know, a good business model or yeah. But it is so based on this report, this proposal seeks to show or seeks to explore, or this proposal argues.
So again,
so what will happen is that you will have to, if it's between two congregations in the South Central Conference,
it's just one. Just my church, and I'm still. I understand that was really good, but I'm still wondering specifically who shall I survey? Should I survey the conference to see?
Well, this is what I'm getting at.
Okay.
Depending on what you're trying to do, may depend on who you would survey. If it's a congregational approach, congregational ministry, now, you know, the conference would be part of that as well in some way, because if it's going to be in their name,
right,
and so forth, there are lots of insurance issues and so on. You need a feasibility study. And that feasibility study may be in terms of two groups, maybe church officers, maybe church members, and it may be conference officers, or maybe the church officers would include a conference representative, and they will talk about it from the conference level, and the church will talk about it from what they want to see and what they will contribute to it, and the need for it, so on. And you'll get your data from there.
Okay.
Obviously, the conference would like to see something like 70% of the funding already be raised by the church before they can step in and by, you know, generally.
Right.
Like if you want to open a school, you've got to have enough students to be able to pay the teachers up to about 75%, and then the tithe and offerings come in, and they try to see if they're the, you know, how that budget could support an educational program.
Okay.
So yes, you will have to develop some groups, just like I would have to develop groups within my congregation who listen to my sermons. In the same way, you need to. You can also have conversations with the city hall and find out information that we would bring to the group, that they may have a certain grant for office space or carpeting or beds or whatever. The same way, maybe or they may allow you to try to raise funds and, you know, somewhat like the downtown rescue mission project. and you may not necessarily get the result of a full-fledged kind of nursing home, but you can see the framework, and you can determine the attitude and willingness of the people, the congregation. Obviously, a congregation alone wouldn't be able to handle that unless it's Oakwood University or First Church or something.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
But that's why I'm saying that it needs to involve more than one. Possibility of having it expanded more than one. More than one congregation. Because one congregation can deal with their own evangelistic program. One congregation, one person in a congregation can deal with chaplaincy between them and the healthcare institution. But when you're looking at developing a business, when I say business, I mean, there has to be some kind of organizational structure. There has to be some financial management.
Mm-hmm.
Someone has to be in charge. So it's a big program. Whether that could be scaled down to something more manageable, which would become the basis of something larger. In other words, if we were running a smaller project, that there is one house that became available.
Yeah.
That the community served
Yes, it is a big project, but it doesn't mean that there will be many houses. You know?
Right.
Uh-huh.
So see, if we had a project that was already in the process of serving the community, and you wanted to introduce a new feature to it, then it becomes easier. You're thinking about starting from scratch, but at the heart of this is how to give support to people who are in transition due to unemployment or divorce or whatever it is. Whatever you say the issues are. How can a local church offer pastoral care and support to members, church members who are in transition, in emotional and personal transition, and sometimes embarrassment? How can we offer that support, and how can that be seen as good news, as gospel, as the gospel, like the Greek euangelion.
Okay.
The good message. Evangelism is euangelizomai. It's the same thing. It's good news. How do we bring good news to people who are going through social and personal transition, and hence being evangelistic?
Okay.
You didn't say that it would be geared just toward the church, though, right? It would be geared toward the community.
It's really up to you.
Because the whole thing is to evangelize, and I was thinking, I know, it comes sometimes that church members do need help, but I was trying to gear it towards society, community,
Right.
because it's a form of evangelizing.
Right.
And
And
I
it
just
could be,
reach the people in the church then.
yeah, it could be that instead of us thinking about this great big hospital or great big building, it could be that your project could lead every church to have such a building.
Right.
So just like, every church tends to build a gym for the young people.
Right.
It could be that the project is suggesting that every church needs a support center.
Right.
And as you travel along the road and you see some of these subdivisions, you can get a 3-bedroom house for $500,000. You can get one for $300,000. And I dare say that you can get a new house, a 3-bedroom house, for $250,000. Okay. And therefore, if the church was able to buy a piece of land and get the carpenters together, who will be paid something, but you can probably, let's say it's $250,000. You have a 3-bedroom house that the church uses as a transitional ministry.
Yeah.
See?
We have the land, and I was thinking more on a very lower scale basis, like modular homes, only,
Yeah, but I'm just saying.
$1,000, $30,000, $40,000.
Right, whatever.
Yeah.
So, if there is no such ministry going on, there isn't something that you can practice on. You can't show them something. But
There's that type of ministry, but not in our church.
right,
There's, like a
Yes.
place 30 miles from where I live that has that.
right.
Uh-huh.
But what you do then, one of the things you have to do then, of course, you still have your groups in the church with whom you will brainstorm, with whom you will question. If we did have such a facility, who will support it? Why would you support it? And so you'll get your answers from a younger group and an older group.
Okay.
And you ask, how do you think this would be financed? You get the question, you got the questionnaire, and you will get the response, and you analyze the response. You support it as a biblical theological foundation. It has it's built into the need to care. And based on the results, if it's affirming, then you show how this could work.
Right. Okay.
The outcomes of the questionnaire will simply show how it will work, and then it's for you to be creative in what recommendations you make
Right.
with the results, and how you will create a training manual to train other churches to think in that same way.
Right. Okay.
Is that helpful?
Yes, very much so.
And we don't want to try to think that we have to invent the wheel. We have to sort of we want to be creative, but sometimes the basic situation is just right in front of us. We need data. It's not guesswork, or we're not just copying what's over there. we need to personally get involved with the people who will be running this, who will be supporting this, and get their feelings. So, you know, my auntie passed away, and she had to come and live with us, and unfortunately all we had was a broom cupboard. And we took off the door, and we just tried to extend it, and that's where she had to stay. And as I think about that, I would want to hope that as a church we can do something better, especially for our elderly members who have worked so hard over the years. And but due to a health problem, all of their savings can just go. And if as you know, their children don't have space in their home, sometimes all that is left it's a small space that has to be created just to give them some independence. But I would like to support this project because I think that is what I would have loved for my mom or my grandmom, and people will tell their stories. And based on that, it becomes a persuasive argument for the pastor and for the pastor to make to the conference. And the pastor, of course, could be part of the conversations as well. I hope that is helpful to all of you as well. You can see here's a need, here's a passion about a concern, and perhaps there's a report that provides some facts. And so based on that situation that's going on over there in another denomination, this proposal will therefore seek to explore. And obviously it will have some twists and turns that are different from the other approach. You know, maybe a Christ-centered approach, you may see it as incarnational theology, that is, God leaving heaven, coming to be with us in the same way we are going out to meet people who, there are some people, some congregations that they keep a close eye on the local newspaper. And anyone in the obituaries, they send them cards. People who get married, that, you know, they put them in the newspaper as well, they send them cards. And so it's not just those we announce on Sabbath morning in our congregation. Just like you were saying, you want to reach out to people outside. There are a number of types of projects that can be done. The one that you're thinking about, a chaplaincy program to meet people in transition emotionally and in the midst of loss and illness. It could be in relation to like what Whitley Phipps does for parents, the Dream Academy, for the parents and children of the incarcerated. So he works with families.
Right.
And particularly young men whose dads are in prison and they need mentoring and education and support and all of that. So you're right, it doesn't always have to be with the congregation itself. I mean, for the local congregations, utilization primarily, but it should be open to them, of course, because they are
The stakeholders.
yes, and if they are in transition,
Right, of course.
yeah, and so forth. So I see light in that, and I see that as great, and go for it. That's what we want to see. There is no bad idea. It's really about methodology and whether we are following, because this is an academic institution, whether we are following scholarly procedures, whether we are acquainted with the literature, whether we are citing our sources. because our accrediting bodies want to see that the graduates could do that.
Right.
So yeah, it sounds good.
Okay.
Sounds good. So anybody else who got stuck a little bit there? If not, we're moving on. We had the hypothesis. We saw how he developed this, and when his paper had failed, he had to include some of these things in yellow before it was resubmitted to the IRB. And next there was the statement and purpose and background. We went through that last week, followed it very carefully under the heading. And then we went on to talk about the literature review, which I think it's part of. Yeah, the literature review was put in here. I would suggest a separate heading. And we noted that it wasn't just a running commentary of the literature. He showed what each text is going to contribute to the conversation. He has a little summary of what each text is about, and showed its significance for the study. One thing that is missing, though, is the conversation between the different thinkers, the different authors. Although he did have some. And we were saying, when we say go to the literature, we're not referring to Google, we're referring to go to the library, go into the databases, and to look for peer review articles. And everyone knows how to do that now? Okay, we did that last week, and we said that he uploaded.
You for the draft. How many pages do you want to draft?
There isn't a fixed set of pages, but you need to get the information. We have the headings, and you need to give the information necessary for the readers to see. Now, how much this is about 20 pages? About 12, 15 pages without bibliography. Without bibliography. And there may be a couple of other forms. So there isn't a page length so much as filling in something for each one of these concerns that the IRB has.
Okay, because I'm not going to need a consent form for this. So. All right. Okay.
Yeah, every proposal needs a consent.
A consent if I'm not interviewing anyone?
There are two things. One, RP 571, RP 572. They're different. You may not need a consent form for 572 if you're dealing with if there's no human involvement.
Right, there is no human involvement in it.
But for RP 571 you do, because you have to show you are acting as if you're going to do it, and you are showing that you know how to prepare a proposal, a full proposal for the IRB in regards to human subject. And the protocol needs to be filled out in relation to all of the items. Whether you utilize that for 572 is another matter. But you are showing in RP 571, when you get an A for RP 571, you are saying, I have shown that I know how to do this.
But isn't 572 a continuation of the full-length paper that is due?
It is not tied to. It is not fully tied to 571. If you're going to do a capstone, then that is slightly different from the proposal that you would have made in 571.
But I thought that the proposal leads to the paper, the capstone for 572. It's a continuation.
It can't.
Oh,
You
I know.
would have had everything as if you're going to do an actual research, but you decided to do the capstone, and therefore you will simply leave out the other things that are not necessary. The 571 provides you the full experience that you can show how to set up two groups, questionnaire, and you have your consent for, if I'm going to do this, this is what my consent form will look like. This is how my questionnaire would look like. These are the questions that I would ask. You're showing all of those things. You're showing the instructor that you know how to do it. And on that basis, you're graded on that basis. When it comes to 572, you can develop the same topic and much of the same protocols based on the table of contents that we will have for the actual capstone. But you can leave out the collection of data issue. You will simply be looking at something like what this person did right up in the abstract. They base their hypothesis leading to research on a current piece of study. In a similar way for the capstone, when we get there, in our 572, it will be based on evidence-based research, not research that you had to do, but someone already did something on that subject, and based on that, your hypothesis is that it will be worded slightly differently in terms of what you are going to show, or what you're going to what you're actually going to develop, and how you're going to use it for training purposes and so on. But yeah, for 572, you're utilizing much of what you're doing here, but not all of it if you're going to do just the capstone. If you're going to do actual collection of data, once you get the okay in this class, you can start collecting your data and work on your project. All right. But I do hear your concern, or at least your question. If I'm not going to be using, focus groups and so on in my final project, why do I need to do it for 571? They're two different classes. 571, you need to know all of the skills and demonstrate that you can use all of the skills. 572, you utilize what you need for that particular project, whether it's a capstone, whether it is a full project. They serve different purposes. And I think yesterday we were having a conversation as the possibility later on of an academic thesis that demonstrates scholarly depth and width of a topic suitable for what a PhD acceptance committee might want to look at as a basis of inviting you to do a PhD. They want to see a certain kind of usage of sources and depth of discussion of a topic and the kind of citation and all the scholarly things, some of which we're not going into, but there would be maybe other options. We also discussed yesterday, I think in the meeting, the possibility of, well, I don't want to say that, I don't want you to go and ask Dr. Fraser all kinds of questions that are not immediate, you know? Because you might go and ask as if it's immediate.
I wouldn't do that. No, I wouldn't
You
do
know,
that.
it's just an internal conversation as we have our meetings and as we plan for the future. As we think of the possibility of a D-Man, as we think of the possibility of a PhD, all those we want to give options of what students can do based on what they want to do afterwards. If they just want, if they're doing this course for self-improvement or just knowledge, or they are using this degree to write a book or to create a resource for training, all well and good. But you may, and therefore you might just want to do a capstone as opposed to an academic thesis or project. So it's kind of options. We're also thinking about the possibility of a 72-hour degree that is similar to an MDiv. So the ATS has a standard where they speak of before you get the MDiv, if that's, you're not doing that as yet, the MDiv or its equivalents. And the equivalency is usually around 60 to 70 something hours, as opposed to 36 hours. And we have additional conversations in terms of, which doesn't affect you, but in terms of our undergraduates being connected to the master's program so that they can also finish in 1 year. They would begin in the summer, fall, and spring, and in the spring, and they will take more hours. So there are several things that are being discussed for the future.
To complete a master's in 1 year. Excuse me. To complete a master's in 1 year.
Yeah, the students who are in the undergraduate program in their senior year, there will be options for them to take certain classes or expand some of their classes to take on board other concepts from the first year or first semester of the of math, for example. They will be doing that in their senior year. So for those who can do that in their senior year, then they're almost down by 15 hours. So they only have 30 hours, not 36 hours, 20 something hours to take.
So that's an option for the undergrad that's
Yeah.
coming into a master's. It's not an option for us.
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
So a lot of colleges, a lot of universities are doing that. 1 year semester program. I mean 1 year master's program now.
Yes. And the reason why it's 1 year is because they're doing the summer as well.
But also it's an accelerated program.
Yeah. So there are different features as we move ahead. So keep an eye on that abstract, which you're supposed to have at least got a full draft of that already. Statement of purpose and background. I think I would put a separate heading for the literature review. And in here, of course, you got some information from the classes that particularly speak directly to your topic. And of course, you have the biblical and theological background that we need to be to have in that as well. We don't see much of that in this literature review, although these books do have the theology, congregational ministries, and different things as well. Okay, subjects. These are the individuals that you'll be working with. Okay. Who are the subjects, just like we were talking about? Congregation, the groups. Will we be interviewing conference officers, or will we be reviewing, working with young people, and the like? And again, this is about the design. How will it be designed? Whether it is just groups with questionnaires to develop a model that would be practiced, such as a week of prayer that would result so that you can see how a topic is dealt with, or whether it's a series of studies that will be done during prayer meeting, and then there will be an assessment of that. If you believe that the book Steps to Christ, that the careful study of it can lead to a marked difference and growth in the life of the Christian, and that if it is developed into a series of studies, can result in spiritual growth. And you have a survey of the group. You talk about their spiritual growth and it needs improvements and so on. And you say, well, I believe that the book Steps to Christ has certain themes that can speak meaningfully to various stages of our Christian life. And I would like to develop workshop materials or study materials from each chapter. It would have breakout groups, it would have prayer groups and different things. And then you had this meeting with them, and they said yes. And you have a separate group that will help you develop these workshop materials. And the pastor says, okay, you can do it either Sabbath Vespers, Friday night for the next month, or you can do it for Vespers on Saturday evening at the end of the Sabbath, or you can do it for prayer meeting for the next month or two. And you test it out, then see how members feel in the end. Have another survey. And if it works, and just like people have 40 days of prayer, 40 Steps to Jesus. There you go. You know.
So it
It could be as simple as that. Or it could be specifically about your ministry itself, and you want to use that to help you. We had one student who was in a counseling business, and they wanted to set up, to strengthen their self-employed program through this process. So they developed some workshop materials in relation to their career, what they were actually doing as part of their vocation, in relation to violence, domestic violence. And they did that. So I'm kind of lingering there just to help you to let it brew in relation to your own. I hope you're jotting down things and ideas, and that you have your own proposal in front of you where you are so far, and you are making corrections or notations or where you could do different things with it. So I'm hoping that is meaningful. Now, when it comes to methodology, design, you would have to indicate there whether you are doing qualitative, that you're doing qualitative research, or you are doing longitudinal research. Now, longitudinal research means that it's not just an event, but it'll take a while. This is something that has to be done like, several times a year. 2 or 3 times a year. So it's going to take a while. It's longer. It's longitudinal. And so you do it over the first year, the second year, the third year. Obviously, the program may not last that long. So you have to have it during one quarter, next quarter, next quarter, next quarter. And you collect the data from all of these to see how it happened over a period of time, as opposed to just with 2 groups. And then we have what's called a covenant. And if you have a group that's working with you to set up this prayer meeting, they will work, and you are looking at how you could be developed, or you can develop spiritually, practically, or how the congregation can develop. Then they are working with you, not just answering questions, but they are working with you and helping you build that program. So we have what's called a learning covenant. There's an agreement about you working with them and they working with you. So in a sense, you are learning with them and they are learning with you. You will share with them the purpose, you will share with them the theory behind what it is you're doing, so they're learning new things. And the biblical and theological foundations that you are using, you could be teaching them that information as well. The biblical foundations behind the project. Okay. All right, just give me 1 second.
Okay, I'm back.
Any questions so far?
So
So this is where you need to read by master and as well as Swinton. So that you can use the language there to help you summarize your process. Let me see here. Chapter 3, for example, Pastoral Theology and Qualitative Research Methods. Chapter 2, what is qualitative research? So because what you're doing is qualitative research, we want you to use the specialized language to describe the whole process of the method of collecting the data, developing small groups, and IRB would want to see a sample of the questions that will be asked in relation to the information that you want to find out. If we were going to establish a nursing home, how many would you prefer one in the country? A, B, would you prefer one in the city? C, would you prefer one as an extension of the church's property? You know, whatever questions that you think you want to ask. Or ask the group. The sample questions are needed. So they are breaking down the basic approach to the development of a thesis project will be as follows. Begin with a specific question based on specific observation in order to suggest a general hypothesis. Construct a hypothesis into a workable program that will observe and evaluate effectiveness. Provide literature reference to support the thesis project. Obtain written permission from the church board. Authorizing the project from the church focus group for the purpose of evaluating the level of lay participation and so on from the church development group. These are just names for the two groups. The church development group is the group that actually is helping him develop the program. The focus group will have a survey or a questionnaire in regards to lay participation, what they think about lay participation. Analyze the data objectively. And one of the things you do here is that when you have these responses, you analyze the data for themes. It's something you call coding. You code the data. You look for themes. And if several people are talking about this particular theme, then it's very important. Your analysis and the results, as you share the results, you can share the results in terms of quantitative data, in terms of percentages. And you got your sample covenant. Here he practiced a particular activity twice. Just like we were saying that you can have a prayer meeting service for a month. He had activities twice, on April 19th and May 17th. All right. And they made a DVD. Participants will complete form, and the DVD will be made of an aspect of the praxis. And that was actually, I remember, that was actually submitted. But we don't need that. We need the analysis of that. And so on. So you need to take a look at that. So what's the benefit of this? Then of course you have the issue of confidentiality. All these could be separate headings, but it's put down in this way. And when there were some issues, then there had to be a revised timeline. See, there are different things happening, and so on. Okay. Further questions? Let's see if
I have a question, Doctor.
Okay, Dan.
According to my calculations, next week will be the 8th week. Is that correct?
And
the 8th week for the Zoom classes.
Yeah. So basically, I will be making myself available for a Zoom meeting as usual. You are not mandated to be there. You are required to be there for, is it 8 weeks?
Yes.
And then you no longer need to attend. So maybe your question is we need to put it a different way in terms of who will be available. Because if you think that you have basically everything that you need to do, you know what the readings are, reading reports are, you know the other assignments in terms of Caribbean and Vimaster, and you know the dates for this final the full draft. Perhaps what we could do, I could make myself available if everyone say well that they have other things that they would like to pour their time in to do now, but they will be happy to be back here on perhaps on the 30th when my return. Or the first draft, full draft really is the 23rd of September. Then let me look at my calendar. Just one second.
Yeah,
If
If we
say,
say,
the 23rd is the draft.
yes,
yes,
if
if we say,
if we
if we
say
say
that we want to
meet
meet
next week
to
to actually have a conversation or have any questions that you may have about your draft before submitting it at midnight, then that kind of conversation, if you came with questions or concerns, right?
Well, it is a scheduled meeting next week, Doctor. The 23rd. So we have to be here next week.
Right.
So if you came with questions that you actually want to deal with in relation to
a
a
particular
particular aspect of the proposal,
then
that would be directly helpful to you in that particular assignment.
It's
It's the first draft. You're going to get a feedback anyway,
but
by being very specific,
then
then that could be helpful
to
to you.
So
So if you do that, then we can spend most of the class discussing your particular area that you think might be of concern for you.
Would that
Would that be okay?
That's fine with me. Yes.
That works.
So
So now, in regards to the 30th
and
and the 7th and so forth as we move on,
how
how do you feel?
I'm not,
you would have fulfilled your requirements.
You
You could use the time to do your reading, right?
Catch
Catch up with your reading,
and
that would be that would be well for you.
Hey, Dr. Benjamin.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry. Please forgive me.
no
No
problem.
problem.
We're going to submit the draft in the Dropbox. Am I correct?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Is it listed as draft or just you know?
I don't think so. If it's not, then I'll make that distinction. Yeah, I'll have to make that distinction.
I'm
Bringing it down now.
So
So I'm not getting any responses. You don't have to come after next week, and I'll take it as
the
the 23rd as our final Zoom until further notice.
We
We should have one before we end the semester.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, we should have something before we end
this
this
semester.
semester. I don't think we scheduled any presentations.
Did we?
Did we?
No, we didn't. No.
I
I don't think we scheduled presentations.
We have enough on our plate as it is already. We don't need presentations. We have enough on our plate.
All of you are silent. It's very unlike me not to have a presentation. So
Doc, we already have a lot on our plate. So,
sound like if you're a hungry man.
no, I'm hungry to eat, but no, we have enough already. And plus, you're going to correct the draft, and you are sending it back to us, and what correction is needed, as well as the book reports and what have you that need to be done. I think you laid it on us pretty good there. No, come on, Doc. Give us there's such thing as mercy and grace.
They work hand in hand.
Yes, absolutely.
And
So you can't have mercy and grace
without
the law, right?
Well, the Lord is entwined with mercy and grace. What we can't do of our own, Christ paid that penalty.
At
At least you know what it is you can do.
Yeah, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me.
So
let's have some presentations then.
No, Doc. That's all right.
That's
okay, Doc.
I have a question.
Let me just look quickly at the one second in the Dropbox here. I just gotten into the Dropbox, and I believe we have miracles, project timeline, and so forth. We have a PowerPoint, which means that there's a presentation.
Doc,
I'm
sorry, the sister.
That's all right. You're right on keeping me.
Yes, go ahead.
My question has to do with after we do the final proposal, we submit it. If it's not accepted, you give us another chance.
Oh, sure. It needs to be, it's just like that person in the yellow had to make those changes before resubmitted to RRB. Yes. And if there's still issues, submit it again.
Okay. But you'll notify us we have to resubmit.
Yes. They will email me back, and I wouldn't be on the committee because it would be an ethical issue.
Right.
So, but they will send me a notification of the name they think something is missing, and if they think it has to go to committee, then I think the best thing is to change the project by removing certain things so it doesn't have to go to committee. But if it has to go, then obviously it takes a lot longer. Yeah. Yeah. So
that was a known presentation, right? That was a known presentation, right? That was Grace and Mercy.
That's from your colleague. He is giving you grace and mercy.
Well, we're talking about you, Doc.
You're not?
We need Doc.
We need grace and mercy right now, Doc.
I'm serious.
Dr. Benjamin. Dr. Benjamin?
Yes, sir.
I want to remind you that you said you were going to take care of us. We got off to a little late start at the beginning of the semester. You said you were going to take care of us.
So are we extending the class or what? What do you?
No, that's all right, Doc. We're talking about grace and mercy. I know where the brother's going at with that, Doc.
I'm trying to read his mind there, you know.
Well, I believe that the dear brother is saying, since we had a late start, Doc, that you don't need to add on what we already have and what it do.
No research. I mean, no presentation.
All right, sister. I thought you was on my side.
No presentation.
I think we need to hear from you in terms of the reading. All you're doing is saying what you did in your reading reports.
Well, we're going to have to write the reading report, don't we?
Yeah.
Right. So, and now we're going to be graded on that. We have to put it in the Dropbox as well. Because we're talking about full reports that we're doing.
Yeah.
Including the draft and what needs to be corrected, and we have to do the corrections on that either. So I think our plate is pretty full.
So why don't you do
a fasting and prayer service on my behalf?
Oh, I've already started.
Just 1 second.
Sure.
Yes.
Okay. So you started the fasting prayer already for me.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
So let me think about this overnight.
Oh, good night.
We'll see if we see what the result is on that.
Well, at least we don't have to do 40 days or 30 days of fasting now. I think I've already started mine already tonight.
Yeah, you don't have to do that. You have to go on the mountain, Elijah.
Hey, let me tell you something. I would have loved to been there when Christ was transfigured and they had Elijah and Moses, remember? So
falling down fire from.
Oh man. But that's when the Lord had informed Elijah that not everyone has bowed their knees to Baal.
Yeah.
And it was over 3,000.
Yep.
So Doc, we're just a few. So I'm just asking, grace and mercy.
Yes, sir. We hear you.
Be not only hearers of the word, but doers as well, Doc.
Amen. I agree.
Yes, sir.
Well, we can end early, 15 minutes early. I hope your families are safe. All kinds of complications are coming up in relation to this election. Take care of yourselves. This morning, I got up early, fairly early. It's kind of getting darker and darker. 6 o'clock was quite right, and I would do some exercise. But now 6 o'clock is dark. And as a black man, I don't want to walk. I don't want to go out in my neighborhood.
Hello.
Walking around, even though they know who I am, but I'm black. And you're trying to get ready for work. Your garage door is open.
Yeah.
Your car is on, warming up. And here's this guy walking briskly. I don't want anybody calling the police. There's a black man walking the neighborhood.
Remember, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I fear no evil. Thou art with me, and with us all.
That's true.
Yes, sir.
But I hear another voice saying, "Wise as a serpent,
and harmless as a dove." Yes, sir.
So I want to be seen, you know.
Yes, sir.
But praise God for Breonna Taylor's mother, street settlement there, and other things, because you can't just pay off and keep the evil still being perpetuated.
There's also an investigation against Georgia with the hysterectomy that's going on. So Nancy Pelosi has instructed that there should be an investigation going on. And let's pray for the dear sister who has come out and stated that these things are going on, so she needs prayer too, because a situation like that requires plenty of protection from the Lord. It's because when you're a whistleblower like that, and especially when you're dealing with someone and they can be incarcerated or money's being shelled out, then the individual his life is in danger. So let's pray for the dear sister as well.
Yeah. Daniel, you okay? Are you a PD man? Colonel.
Yes.
How are they treating you, man?
I'm good. I'm good. I got here about 6:30. I think Uba gave you my message.
Yes.
We've been getting off late, but my wife logs me in. I record the classes. So
Yes.
whatever I miss at the end, I'll go back and listen to it.
Right.
Now there's a storm coming through as well. Those of us in the south, and you in Florida down there.
It's raining here right now.
All right.
Bad.
It's
Raining.
It's
going to hit Georgia as well. Those of us in the south.
Yeah. It's raining in
We'll
Georgia.
definitely keep that in prayer.
Yeah.
All right.
All right. Well, the Lord be with you. Can someone just pray for us as we conclude?
Hey, Chris.
And your beautiful daughter, theologian. Peace unto you, man.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
All right. Anybody want to pray for us?
Would you like me to pray? Okay. Let's bow our heads for prayer, please. Kind, most loving and gracious Heavenly Father, we thank you for your grace and your mercy. And we thank you for the many blessings that you bestowed upon us. We thank you for giving us health, dear Father. We thank you for the protection you have given us against this dreaded virus. But we also pray for those who have lost loved ones during this tumultuous time. And we ask, dear Father, that you continue to be with Dr. Benjamin and continue to bless his family and bless all of our families, dear Father. Bless my classmates in a mighty special way, wherever they are. Father, we know that you are the great physician. We all know that you are the great protector as well. But Father, we ask that you please give us a good night's rest. We ask that you will send your Holy Spirit to continue to be with us, as well as your angels, to sing sweet melodies of praise to us throughout the night. Is my prayer in Jesus' name.
Amen.
Amen.
Good night, everybody.
All right. God bless everyone. Have a wonderful night.
Yeah. God bless everybody.
God bless.